Welcome to the Friday Power Lunch, a weekly show amplifying the voices of the Virginia grassroots. Each week, we provide engaging conversations about politics, culture, and women making change. Produced by the unstoppable women of Network Nova, our motto is, when we vote, we win. The Friday Power Lunch is recorded before a live Zoom audience. Follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and show us some love and become a sponsor through Patreon. The Friday Power Lunch. Badass women getting things done.
Today, it is April 28th, and welcome to the Friday Power Lunch. I'm Katherine White, your host, bringing you the guests, the issues, the actions. We are amplifying the voice of the grassroots to get things done. And yes, you know us, we like to make stuff fun. So we're so glad you're here with us. Today, our theme is coming together for good. And we have some guests here that are doing their part for standing up for a strong democracy, a strong community, a strong society. And we're so excited they're here doing their part. Let's bring those guests up. And first out of the block, we have Laura Brill. Laura, welcome. You are the founder of Civics Center. And you also, if everybody wants to know this little tidbit about Laura, once we bring her up. Yes, hello, Laura. You are the former law clerk to the Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So Justice is in the room today. How are you doing?
It's great. That's great to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I want to just say what you're doing for youth. Just so exciting. I'm excited. We'll unpack that later. But in your words today, when you're thinking about the words of civil rights icons or injustice, what is on your mind? What's your top thing you're worried about?
Well, I think since you mentioned the justice, one of the things she wrote the dissent in Shelby County, and she wrote many other important opinions. And I think one of the things she was trying to tell us is that the courts aren't really going to be able to protect us right now, especially on their own, and that it's up to us to make democracy work. So.
That is so true. That's a great message today. Don't wait for anybody. It is really up to us. Laura, we're really excited what you're doing for young people around voting. So I'm so glad you're here. Okay, everybody give a welcome to Laura. Good finger snap, as we say. And I want to bring up next somebody else, we know sister district, because if you're doing activism in Virginia, if you rose up around the Trump era, we know that sister district is part of our Virginia story. So we're so excited to welcome Jarvis Houston back, organizer and political director from Sister District, and with his sister, as we say, Sister District friend, Susan Farrell, head of organizing. Welcome to you both. We want to bring up Susan too. So Jarvis, it's so great to see you and Susan here and what you're going to be doing for Virginia. What is on the top of your mind when you're thinking about justice?
I'm glad. Great question. And we were talking about Harry Belafonte about 5 minutes ago, and one of my favorite quotes from him, because he understood the struggle. He said, movements don't die because struggle doesn't die. And that quote always hits me because he understood the power of passing the Voting Rights Act, passing the Civil Rights Act. But unfortunately, in 2023, we still have to fight for reproductive rights, civil rights, human rights, and unfortunately, voting rights in the United States of America. And one of the most wonderful things that happened in 2021, of course, we lost the majority, but also the Democratic majority expanded voting rights. And this district was founded by 5 dynamic, badass women in 2016 that understood the value of putting resources into state-led campaigns. Republicans have saw the importance of state-led campaigns since the Civil War. And Sister District co-founders saw the need of putting financial, people, and money resources into state-led campaigns. And we're thrilled to be in Virginia for the 4th time. We started in 2017. We worked with everyone on this call to get the majority in 2019. We worked together again in 2021. We learned a lot in 2021.
Yeah.
And now we're dedicated to taking back the House in 2023 and also expanding and protecting the Senate. So we're really excited to be here.
Okay, let's bring up Susan, introduce her because she's new to Virginia real quick and say hi because we're so excited. And I'm already pumped up. Can we put on Susan? Jarvis, it's so fun to be with you. And this is how we're going to make sure that we go all in to win. I want to say hi. Is she here?
Hey, y'all.
Oh, there you are. Sorry, my screen was blocking it. Susan, sorry. I couldn't see you on this side of my screen. That's the love of virtual getting together. So sorry. So welcome to the show. We're so glad and we're excited to hear from you about your field organizing program in Virginia. So thank you for being here. And I don't want to, do you have something on your mind about justice?
Oh, sure. Well, when you asked Jarvis that question, the first thing I thought about when it comes to justice is making sure we lift every voice, as you said, and make every voice count. And for us, that comes down to state legislature politics again and again. And that's why Sister District is so dedicated to building progressive power in state legislatures and so excited to be back in Virginia this year.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you back. Thank you both for being here. We're going to be excited to unpack what Sister District will be doing in Virginia. So thank you so much. Next up, a beloved member of our community or communities, let's say all the members coming up are from the 51st Street Collective, Jennifer Kitchen, who is the managing director of the 51st Collective and always serving, and Bob Fassick and his better half, Antonia Fasick. There are just been a team. We're just like a power team, aren't we?
Yeah, we try. Bob and Tony, they sort of adopted me while I was a candidate and haven't been able to get rid of me since.
I love it. We're so excited to have you here. And Jenny, when we talk about justice, what is on your mind?
I love what everyone has to say, and finding a way to lift up voices of people who are often unheard. A lot of what we're doing is providing gap services to people who find themselves facing homelessness, find themselves in a crisis that they need help navigating. And so that's what we're here to do, is to, providing something as simple as a little box like this to help keep them alive, to get to the next step so that they can receive services.
I am so excited to feature you in the spotlight. We've had you as a candidate, we've had you just as a member of our community, and now just so interesting to hear about what you're doing in the local community. Bob and Tony, also, thank you for being here. Bob, what's on your mind real quick about justice?
Unmute.
It's okay. I love it.
Well, it's universal and it takes in everybody, but it needs to be done one person at a time.
I love it.
Everybody's got to join in.
All right.
What little you can do is more than what you weren't doing. So
I love it, Bob.
Just get out there and do it.
I love it. Tony, Antonia.
What pops in my head is the inequities of living in a rural area versus a suburban or urban area, and what is available to fill the gaps for people. It's just so much less available, even from bus to get to a court date,
right,
to what do I do now because I don't have a place to live.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing that pops in my
Thank you. I love this team. I'm so excited to get it started. It's just a beautiful way to come together today for good, and you guys are just really showing us how to do that. So thank you so much. Let's go to the next segment of the Friday Power Lunch. Like I said, everybody, so glad you're here. I hope you have your coffee. You're feeling all perked up. You have some caffeine in there. Maybe you have some soup. It's just that kind of day. Rules of the road, use the chat to communicate. And I want to say hi to Katherine. I saw you're here from all the way out in Lake Frederick. I'm so glad to see a lot of activists here in the room. And remember, just keep the chat civil. Appreciate that. And support the show. Become a patron. We're so glad you're here. A little bit in the cup goes a long way. It keeps the lights on. It supports women doing the work. I want to say thank you to Elizabeth Jackson, who's our newest supporter, and a new supporter, Bob Fassick. So Bob, if I would have known you could have supported us, I would have put you on the show sooner. That's a little joke. So thank you, Bob. Love you guys, because I know Antonio is a supporter. So I want to say to everybody, the Women's Summit is coming up on July 22nd and 23rd. Get your ticket. Make sure you help us market this, because really Virginia is really on the map. It is where democracy will stay in power if we come together to win. We will set the tone for 24 here. Make no mistake, everybody's talking about who's going to be president. Just drown that out. We need to talk about Virginia. That's why Sister District's here, and also Laura Brill from the Civics Center, because it is about voting, it's about democracy, and it's about all of you. We're going to have we already have 50 workshop submissions, and the deadline is Sunday. So if you have something really you think we need to know about, please submit that proposal. We're going to have, we have great supporters. We also got just a sponsorship recently from the AFL-CIO and Planned Parenthood, and we're going to have a robust, exciting advocacy fair. And moving on from that, I would love to call up the best woman in the world, Fennell Norton. You're here. I'm so excited to see you. It's always my favorite time to chat with you real quick. And today our little segment is going to be called All Things Banned. What's on your mind?
So I got a lot on my mind. So because we have some really cool videos to show, I'm going to start with the first thing banned, which is a book. And we know that this is all over the news. It's in all school boards, and it's just really getting quite ugly. And so the book that is banned is All Boys Aren't Blue. And it is one of the most banned books out there today. And I want to encourage everyone to pick up this book, read it. You know, it's LGBTQ, which we're all also going to talk about, and other things that are banned. But it's just good for us to have a really good understanding. This is an excellent book. It's for people 14 years and older, but we should pick up this book because it's banned, and we want to support banned books.
We're going to put that in the chat, because Bard's Alley is going to be where the link, we're going to lead people in the chat to go ahead and purchase that book and support. It's a local bookstore, because guess what? Tomorrow, I think April 29th, or this whole week, is the National Independent it's National Library Week, sorry, and it's also Independent Bookstore Day tomorrow. So support your local bookstores. And if you have a local bookstore in your community, please put it in the chat. We need to support that independent kind of books and thought and all that. And you will be supporting a local bookstore.
And if I could just,
yes.
I'm sorry. I was going to say one other thing, that they are getting so desperate about banning books that they're actually closing public libraries by stopping the funding so that these books can't be on the shelves. And so it's just really a serious issue. And it's about democracy. It's about justice. It's about freedom. So it's a really big deal.
Yes, it is a big deal. So let's move on to the next thing that we really want to call people's attention to. You know, we saw a couple things in the news this week that happened. There's women suing Texas. I'd like to show the video of Amanda Zarowski about, she's one of the 5 women suing the Texas for denying them abortion while facing pregnancy complications. Here's Amanda.
I wanted to address my senators, Cruz and Cornyn, who neither of whom regrettably are in the room right now. But I would like for them to know that what happened to me, I think most people in this room would agree, was horrific. But it's a direct result of the policies that they support. I nearly died on their watch. And furthermore, as a result of what happened to me, I may have been robbed of the opportunity to have children in the future. And it's because of the policies that they support. What happened to me was horrible, but I am one of many. And quite frankly, I'm lucky. I'm lucky that I have a husband that could take me to the hospital. I don't have other children that I had to worry about finding health care for. I have a job that was understanding, that allowed me to grieve for 3 days as I waited to almost die. What about all of the women that don't have those same opportunities, that don't have access to health care, that don't have health insurance, that don't have a partner? What about them?
What about them? I mean, this is need to keep this on our radar, because this is what the Virginia election is really why we have to concentrate on that and really bring it to the voters' attention. That is what is on the line. What about those women? What about what's happening? So that was just so moving. And what was else on your mind that when we were talking about something in the news, Fennell?
Yeah, I just want to underscore, double click on what you just said, because it was a couple weeks ago that we actually put in the chat article from the New York Times about 2 other women who had very similar situations. And I think the point we wanted to drive home is if you don't have your own story, let's tell their stories. And it's important to move people with empathy and support and love, and they can have really meaningful conversations with friends and family. But what's on my mind right now is Zoe Zephyr. And so can we go ahead and show?
If you vote yes on this bill, I hope you see the blood on your hands.
So this is really significant. So she's the representative for House District 100 in Montana. And so as punishment, they could have done expulsion, but instead they're doing this censure where she is not allowed to speak or be on the floor during session, and she can only vote remotely. So this is bigger than just LGBTQIA, because they're sort of pushing it aside and just silencing her completely. And so this is much like Tennessee. This is what Republicans are doing. This is what this call is for. This is why we're here, because this is what's happening across Republican-led legislatures.
This idea of silencing, and the goofy part for me is this word about decorum, right? The decorum. Yeah. After they're doing these horrific, disgusting things in these bills that hurt and harm people, they're treating her and other people and silencing Democratic voters. And then they say, oh, we have to have decorum. It's something that we all should just call out is bullshit, as I like to say. I can't let this section go with seeing my ally and friend in the room, Lisa Sales here. I know she spent the day on the Hill with the Equal Rights Amendment. We all know that 100-year celebration is coming up this year. 51 years later, here we are. We're still fighting for the ERA. We saw them try to push and get rid of this deadline. And yesterday we saw that it didn't pass. But we're not giving up the fight. And I want to say thank you to those that still are continuing that fight. We also see the Me Too movement, with E. Jean Carroll talking about her experience being raped by the former president. And we need to call attention to where injustice exists everywhere. So let's say, ain't going to let anybody turn us around, but I am going to turn this over to you, Fennell, because I am excited to really bring up the conversation about young people. Young people. They're the hope in the future. So good luck. I can't wait to hear from Laura Brill.
Wonderful. Thank you, Katherine. Hi, Laura. I'm so happy to have you here today. So why don't we just get started? So if you guys are just joining, this is Laura Brill, and she's from the Civics Center. And I can't get started because personally, I have never, ever met anybody who has been in the room with the Honorable RBG. So before I get started, can you just give us 30 seconds of what that felt like?
Well, thank you so much, Fennell. It's great to be here, and what a great show. You know, the Justice was an inspiration to me and to just millions and millions of people all across the country. And what I think there have been a lot of, there have been movies about her now, and a lot of attention focusing on how, she was a leader, both not just on the court, but in her advocacy for equal rights for women before she became a law professor and then became a judge. And, one of the things, I was on a panel recently about her, and another co-clerk was saying, she loved this country. She thought, she would say, what's the, she would talk often about how, her family was from immigrants, and she was able to go from an immigrant family to being on the Supreme Court, and where else in the country where else in the world do you see that happening? And so she was, this kind of patriotism is something we have to remember, and bring to our work of the kind of opportunities that we want our kids to have and that we want to have for the future.
So is that what made you think about the Civic Center? How did you come about this idea and put it into action?
Yeah, well, after the Civic Center is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, and we focus on high school voter registration and civic engagement. And what happened was I was becoming more and more concerned about attacks on our democracy and just the overt racism that was manifesting, in 2016, 2017, and looking for how could I make a real difference. And my kids were 15 and 16 at the time of that election. And I'm a lawyer. I picked up the California election code. I'm from California. And I said, why didn't more young people vote in 2016? I was really curious, and including in California. And I found that we have pre-registration in California where young people can pre-register to vote at age 16 and then vote automatically when they're 18. And I was like, I had no idea we had this law. My kids were the age, I have done voting rights litigation before. And I was shocked. And I thought, well, I started digging into it, and all across the country, young people are old enough to register to vote before they graduate from high school. But we actually have almost nothing in place anywhere to make that happen. Or if it does, it's because there's one AP government teacher who happens to be really inspired and thinks this is important. And it's a very, it's like it's very haphazard, it's very ad hoc, and it's not at all the kind of system you would want if you wanted to welcome young people into democracy. So Virginia has pre-registration for 16-year-olds. So there's an opportunity for the state now.
So let's talk a little bit about the resources that are available and about how you sort of make this so that 16-year-olds are really interested in doing this, because your website and some of the things you do are very innovative. So can we chat about that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We have a number of different things. We basically focus on data and drives, and data, which is to shine a light on the fact that once young people are registered, they turn out at very high rates. So in 2020, 86% of registered youth turned out. And we all hear all the time, oh, young people don't turn out. And it's that number that people hear in their minds. It's all looking at all youth. And registration is the biggest gap. And when young people aren't, so one of the things we do is we just tell everybody when you're not registered, you're invisible to candidates and campaigns, and especially, Virginia now, since you have state legislative elections, it's those candidates generally start by looking at the voter file. And if young people aren't in the voter file, they just, it's very hard, much harder for candidates and campaigns to reach them. So it's like this chicken and egg problem. So we try to tell the facts. And then the other thing we do is we don't just tell the facts, we also try to fix the facts, and because facts don't fix themselves. And we do that with campaigns to get high school students to run their own voter registration drives in their high schools. And we have 1-hour workshops and then also longer sessions where we work with students to understand how to tell their own stories about how public issues impact their lives. And it's, sort of some of the work like what you just did on those videos of speaking their own reality to the world and how they can do that. And then we have a campaign called Cap, Gown, and Ballot, which is going on now, which is to say to everybody, look, you've got to get high school students registered to vote before graduation, especially 40% don't go on to college. So there's, effectively no way to reach those students quickly if you don't get help them in high school.
So there are 100 or more people on this call today, and they all have a high school around them. So how would they go about trying to think about, I'm going to go to my high school and I want them to use this program? What would you tell them to do?
Yes, I would tell them, look, if you have a real connection with a high school, like you're a parent or you're an educator, or parents or educators, the best way is to go not be coming from the outside, but be coming from within. So to talk to parents with teens in those high schools or to talk to educators, and we offer 1-hour workshops that are on our website that people can sign up for to get trained in how to run a voter registration drive. And we go through the nuts and bolts of what's on the form and how to fill it out. And people who register their drive with us, we send them a little kit called Democracy in a Box. And so they could just go on our website right now, and I'll put it in the notes. I think I put it in the notes at the top, but I'll just paste it again. Sign up for a 1-hour workshop, register your drive, and we'll send you a bunch of materials, and you'll be able to help all your students register to vote.
And it's nonpartisan, so it shouldn't be any difficulty in getting into the school, because we're not going to say Democrat or Republican. We just want everybody to register. This is what democracy is.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Catherine,
Right.
thank you for joining. Any comments that you have for Laura before?
Yes, this is what democracy looks like. I'm waiting for the best.
Thank you so much. No, it's really
Thank you,
exciting.
Laura.
I mean, it's amazing. I just want to reflect back that, your group of bringing all these folks together around
Yes.
common issues and trying to build up people's capacity to act, because it really is, it's amazing to watch young people in their schools gravitate to this and feel like, maybe I can't change climate change tomorrow, but actually I can do something very meaningful, like right here, right now. And that's what keeps me going with all of this.
Yeah, and I'll have to say I work with teenagers, and I think there's such an underserved community. When you're 14, you can, Sir Francis Drake was 14 when he went around the world. We need to allow kids to just really and be empowered to have agency, and that's what some people are obviously afraid of when they're banning books. So thank you, Laura, for really empowering the young folks and helping, just giving the little platform so they can run with it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Great being here.
Thank you, Laura.
Great to see
Hopefully
you,
we'll see 100 high schools all engaged in this program. So
Woo, I hope it. Well, let's talk. Speaking of engagement, let's bring up Sister District team, and let's get right to Virginia Jarvis, who we worked with before, have a great relationship with. Let's talk about Sister District. Give everybody the 411 about Sister District, and then we'll get into the dirty details of Virginia.
All right, thank you again. My name is Jarvis Houston. I'm the organizing and political director at Sister District Project. Susan is our fairly new head of organizing. We're excited to be here. For now, Northern, we endorse you. Good to see you. We love you. We miss you. Glad to see you again on this call. Again, why are we here? That's a big question. We always ask why. Because if you have a why, the how-to will take care of itself. And I think about activists like Harry Belafonte and my great-grandparents. And I want to continue their legacy. And I also look at my future great-great-great-grandkids, and I want to honor their legacy. And it's between that we're here. As Sister District founders, they had that same vision when they started 5 Dynamic Women that started this organization in 2016, because they saw the need to put resources into state-led campaigns. Republicans have saw the importance of state-led campaigns since the Civil War. And state-led, having a Democratic majority in state-led legislatures all across the country is so important now with a conservative Supreme Court. And that's something, in his 4 short years, was appointed 3 Supreme Court justices that, and currently with the conservative Supreme Court, they're attacking our civil rights, our reproductive rights, our human rights, and every other right that we have. And that's why we also are looking at the future, our future great-great-great-grandkids. Sister District, why are we in Virginia again? This is our 4th time in Virginia. We were here in 2016 when we saw the future of having a majority. We helped create the majority with everyone on this call in 2019. And then in 2021, we saw very important groundbreaking bills passed, expanding voter rights. We also learned a lot from the 2021 elections. In 2023, we have a unique opportunity to get the House back, which we will. and also to protect and preserve the majority that we have in the Senate. And we already won some very important special elections. So the Democrats had the momentum. Now we have to have the right message at the right time with the right voter, and also have a very, very, very organized grassroots program, talking to churches, talking to seniors, talking to young people. Like we talked a lot about young people. We got to get all of these groups engaged and answer their why, understand what their value goes to the heart, and talk to them about what matters most to them to get them out to vote. So our phone bank program, our national phone bank program, which will start on May 8th, and we will not stop until Election Day. We have several organizations and people that have partnered with us. In 2022, we had a great year, one of our best election years for Sister District. All of our 18 fully endorsed candidates, they won. And one of the reasons they won because we focused on field. We made 74% of their total downs. Melissa Serrato, who's a new elected official in Pennsylvania, she won by 63 votes. And for the first time since 2010, the Democrats have control in the House by one representative, 63 votes. And that started with us understanding the value of making 82% of her calls and knocking on 2,500 doors from Melissa Serrato. We want to have that. We want to have that same impact in elections in Virginia. We already endorsed four dynamic candidates. Your
endorsements.
Yes, we endorsed 4 dynamic candidates on April 18th. Joshua Cole, who has been a Sister District alum, who will continue to do the good work in Virginia. Danica Rome, we love Danica. We're endorsing her also. We also are endorsing Scholar Van Valkenburg. And also a new up-and-coming challenger by the name of Michael Fagan, who's running in a very, very important district in a very, very important area. They actually decided the majority in 2021. And after the dust is settled, because we only are, Sister District is only involved in general elections against Republicans in purple districts across the country. After the dust is settled, after the June 20th primary, we will endorse 8 additional candidates in 2023 in Virginia on June 27th. So we're excited about our phone bank program, which is started on May 8th. Susan's going to talk more about the National Phone Bank Program. But again, I'll go by the very, very important quote by Harry Belafonte: movements don't die because struggles don't die. So I'm going to let Susan talk a little bit about organizing.
I'm very, very excited, Jarvis. And I know you are just a consummate organizer. It is in your passion and voice. Susan, so tell us some of the strategies that you're going to be implementing in a little deeper look. The National Phone Bank Program. Talk about that, and then talk about anything else we need to know so we can definitely elevate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And thanks for having us on this wonderful lunchtime call. So, to take a broad look at it first, what's so unique and wonderful about Sister District's organizing model is that it takes folks like myself. I grew up in a very blue liberal area of New Jersey, but I've always been incredibly passionate about progressive politics. So it takes folks who are in these liberal areas, who their state legislature seats are a lock. We don't need to do anything there, really. And it takes those folks and it activates and helps empower and mobilize them to make an outsized impact on state legislature races where we can flip a state legislature or hold on to a majority and expand it. So Sister District has over 70 teams and affiliates who work every year tirelessly, just like everyone on this call, to make phone calls and to fundraise and to do all sorts of other organizing for state legislature races. As Jarvis mentioned, one of the cornerstone programs that we run is our National Phone Bank program. So this is a phone bank that is starting on May 8th, as Jarvis mentioned, and it's one of the crown jewels of our program for a couple of reasons. One, it's the partnerships that we build through it. Our goal is to maximize the work that we all can do and not duplicate it. So we partner with other organizations to say, like, hey, bring your volunteers in, come talk about your organization on this Zoom, on this phone bank. Let's promote each other, but don't worry about it. We'll take care of the training. We'll take care of the list. You don't have to do anything besides just tell your folks when and where to be there. So our National Phone Bank program is wonderful. We're starting it with 4 phone banks a week in just a little over 1 week from today. And we're going to be calling for those 4 candidates that Jarvis listed. And one of the two kind of really unique things about our National Phone Bank program, one, we get started really early. We believe that early dials are so incredibly important. If we can identify an undecided supporter and go give that supporter to Joshua Cole or Danica Rome or one of our candidates and say, it would mean the world if you went and knocked on their door. If you can do that in May, then we can follow up with them as many times as we need before November in order to secure that vote. And when these elections come down to just a couple of votes, it's so important that we're doing all of that work and making sure we get every last vote we can. The other thing that's really unique and wonderful about our National Phone Bank is how we center the volunteer experience. We know in Virginia, there are absolutely no off years. I feel like folks are feeling that all over the country, even if they don't have elections in their state this year. It is an around the clock job, and volunteer burnout is incredibly real. So we take steps to make sure that this is sustainable and that joy is centered at the very beginning of every single phone bank that we do. We have a robust volunteer appreciation program to make sure that folks know that we appreciate them giving any amount of time that they possibly can. We do check-ins, and we also just really explain the importance of phone banking as the most effective remote volunteer option for folks who aren't actually in the district.
I ask a question too, like with the phone banking and the sense of the follow-up, is there any other way, any other touch with that voter, or coordination with a different kind of touch? And then if we can talk about canvassing, I know somebody mentioned you guys do deep canvassing. I don't think that's what you guys concentrate on. I know you get canvassers out, but talk a little bit about that. And then I want to see if Fennell has any questions. Go ahead. Is there a follow-up along with that phone call? What does that look like? Is there anything with postcards or canvassing you guys will be thinking about, or is it just all phone bank?
Absolutely. So in terms of follow-up, Jarvis and our political team works every week or every 2 weeks to meet with our candidates and make sure that they know the list of folks who we've identified, whether it's a local volunteer we've recruited or an undecided supporter, just so that that person can then put a plan in place to activate that local volunteer, make sure they have what they need to get involved, and also follow up with the undecided supporter and take a myriad of approaches there. Sister District does also run postcarding and a little bit of canvassing efforts. We really have a distributed organizing model, so we do mainly remote tactics, but we also have such incredibly passionate volunteers. We have folks who fly in from all over the country to canvass in Virginia every odd year, and all over the country to canvass in even years as well.
Well, it's even the remote training. I went to the Sister District's training on messaging, and I could tell you it was excellent. It was really excellent. Natalie ran that one from Sister District, really good. Fennell, I'll give you the last word or the last question. What's on your mind? Because as a candidate, is this important to you, Fennell?
Oh my God, Sister District was awesome, and Jarvis was awesome. He was always only a phone call away for whatever I needed, advice or direction. So Jarvis, thank you so much. I'm sorry we couldn't pull it through, but I really appreciated it. So here's what I want to know. So I know that you guys are focused in on what you do really, really well, which is the phone banking and just really keeping everything tight. Mm-hmm. Is there any innovative things that are maybe different that you guys are looking to do moving forward?
Innovative ways. So our main focus is engaging voters. So I wouldn't say we're innovative, but we have innovative phone banks to keep volunteers engaged. We do fun things, we do prizes, we do contests. So that's innovative because we want to keep our volunteers engaged, and we have a really good retention rate. Anyone that's organized on this call, yes. When someone leaves a phone bank, what's your question? When are you coming back? What time are you coming back? That's your first question when that person leaves. So we want to make sure that we stay innovative, but we keep the meat and potatoes. Phone banking, canvassing, and we knocked on 2,500 doors from Melissa Serrano, for example. She won by 63 votes. And again, postcarding, that's very important to our volunteers. So we also run postcarding programs for Nella, as you know, with a campaign. Like I always joke with people, we'll send a telegram if you need it. We do anything that we can to engage voters in the best way possible, but we want to, number one, make sure the volunteers have the best experience possible to come back and understand what they're doing is actually changing lives.
So my last thing, because you guys are so awesome, and I know we're talking about Virginia, but one of the things that's on my mind right now is states like Mississippi, Tennessee, Alabama, Arkansas. So are you guys for future? Because at the end of the day, we have to be able to get to those voters. And what you guys do is so strategic and so focused. Do you guys, are you thinking about states like that, or are you already there?
I'm glad great question. We don't leave a state behind with a sister district project. So we're also endorsing candidates in purple districts in the states of Mississippi and Louisiana for this election cycle. Because they usually don't have a strong Democratic Party or a group like Network Nova or people like us on this call all organized together on one accord. So we're going to give them the resources. We have a campaign services department that gives candidates free in kind political consultant advice. Everybody knows this on this call. If you talk to a political consultant, usually you get a $5,000 retainer or something else. But we're free in kind using Taylor Shut-in-Eyes over 40 years of campaign experience, and that's very key in states like Mississippi and Louisiana, and that allows them to save financial resources and time, because I can get more people, I can get more money, but I'll never get more time. That's why time is our most valuable asset in campaigning and organizing.
Nice. Well, that's a great way to wrap up. Thank you. And I want to tell everybody that Sister District will be part of the Women's Summit, July 22nd and 23rd. And what our goal is to get all the activists, the candidate, all the stakeholders together under one roof so we can just come out strong and get on the ground and get on the phones and get on the texting so we can bring it home and win it for Virginia. Our democracy is at stake. So thank you, Jarvis, for all you do.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Susan. It's a delight to have you in the room. All the way from New Jersey, now in DC, and will be working in Virginia. We love a New Jersey woman. You're tough, so I love it.
All right. Thanks all.
Yeah, thank you. So I am so excited to talk about people coming together for a collective good. And I have to say that Jenny Kitchen, who ran for office, we know her as a candidate, we know her as a friend, we know her as somebody who really cares about her community. And we had the Women's Summit last year, one of our rural summits, we went to Staunton, Virginia. And what a place, the history, what a wonderful community. But there are some issues going on in some of our communities across Virginia. And it's wonderful because we have Bob Fascick here and ANTONIA FASICK, who are part of the board of the 51st Collective. So Jenny, you are the managing director. Tell us about your journey with the 51st Collective. What does it do, and how in the heck did you get involved in this?
Well, like many things that I get involved with, it was by accident. But by virtue of being an organizer and running for office, you get to know a lot of people, and you get to hear very intimately about their struggles. And so hearing about things going on in our community that aren't always very visible gave me an opportunity to think about how I might be able, along with some of my co-conspirators, get involved to help solve or address some issues. First of all, I want to say we have a lot of great organizations that do a lot with what they have, but even still, there are a lot of gaps in services. So that's what the 51st Collective exists to fill. If someone is entering a crisis, that means that some of their basic needs are not being met. And when your basic needs are not being met, it's really difficult to figure out what your next step should be or how to even go about completing it. So we are there to help fill in for temporary housing, which often looks like a hotel room for a night or two until we can get you connected to the services you need. Food, tech equity. There are a lot of people that are required to attend certain types of meetings, and a lot of it can be done virtually, which is great if you have access to the tech that you need to make it. So that's one of the gaps that we're filling. Transportation. There are a lot of people that find themselves needing to get to mandatory meetings, but they don't have transportation. And if you're in a rural community like Staunton, Augusta, and Waynesboro, you cannot rely on public transportation to get you there. So that's another gap that we're filling. And a really big one is harm reduction. A lot of the services that are available in communities are only available to people who are sober or willing to become sober. And that is simply not an immediate option for a lot of people who are facing a crisis. And so we want to make sure that we're providing services to keep them alive, to get them to a point where they can make that choice for themselves.
Yes, I mean, that is, we talked about this in communities. We hear so much about mental health, addiction. All this kind of starts to escalate into losing housing, being on the street. Then it just gets worse and worse, right? So let's talk about what you're seeing really on the ground, and then I'd like to hear from Bob and Tony about their experiences as well. But what is one of the biggest issues you're seeing in your town, and that you really...
One of the big issues that's here, that's everywhere, and I feel like everyone's really starting to have very serious conversations about, of course, is housing, affordable housing. And we need to, when we're having these really important conversations, remember that providing a house for someone is not the solution to the housing problem. You have to look at all of the things that go together to create that issue. Housing is absolutely the piece of it. What is the inventory like? But also, what are the job opportunities?
Right.
Food scarcity in these communities? What are the education opportunities? All of these issues are intersectional and need to be addressed together, and not in silos where this group is talking about this issue and this group is talking about this issue. The solutions are going to be found somewhere in the overlap.
No, I think, that's really important to talk about, because I know when people want to have good intentions, they want to provide, we need to do housing, and then they're not looking at all the struggle around that. Because I like when I met one of your founders, and I'd like you to talk about niche, saw this as a really immediate issue, but also recognized all the pieces and parts, like, that from the housing, and then having mental health support services and addiction services and job services. It's almost like you need this sort of like a community, I guess. Collective, right?
Yeah, we are building a community. I wish Nitch could be with us today. She's battling COVID for the first time. She made it this far, but that's where she is today. But she has a lot of connections and being part of this system herself. And a lot of the people that we're working with and bringing in have direct lived experience. And that's another thing that's so important in finding solutions. If you've never experienced it,
right,
how can you have a really firm grasp of what the solution needs to look like?
Yeah.
And there are a lot of services that require you to do certain specific things, but they are not asking you what you want your outcome to look like. So one of the things that we've been able to do is Nitch and I are also going through this. We're also have facilitated for 9 other people to go through peer recovery specialist training. Mm-hmm. And so with that training, we're going to be able to go into places that we can't right now and meet people directly in their moment of crisis, whether it's related to substance use disorder, mental health. A lot of times those things are co-occurring, and be able to figure out what they want their plan to be, not a plan that someone else has devised for them. Because when you give people agency to make these choices, they're much more likely to succeed. And so that's a program that we hope to continue. Hopefully this is just the first of many training sessions that we can facilitate to make sure that we have people, and it can be done virtually, so we can facilitate it to get peers and communities across Virginia.
Right. Well, let's talk to your board members. And Bob and Antonia live over in Fairfax, and it's quite a distance from Staunton. So let's go to Antonia first. What drew you to this program? When you and Bob, obviously being a team sport, And
the
tell what
family
it's like
family.
serving and that, what brought you into this? What really was your passion to get involved in this? What did you see? And
Well, I've grown up with the attitude of helping others. And we met Jenny through during COVID period, during a social justice group, Zoom meetings. And we became close, as Jenny said. And she shared, and we also met Niche, and she shared her passion and her concerns for her community down in Augusta County. And we went down there. We've been down there several times, and we see what goes on. One of the things that we're involved in up in Fairfax is a Rising Hope mission group, and that works similarly with the needs of the community. So to see what they can do versus what's available down in Staunton, which is a very pretty little community. Some refer to it as a city, but I say, well, it's not as big as New York. But it's a little piece amongst this greater area, and their needs are, they don't have a bus system like we have.
Right.
They don't have all the services like we have. And so what Niche and Jenny are trying to do is to help the neighbors, help the community, find volunteers, get volunteers, and train them to better interact with the needs, the variety of needs of the community, whether it's substance abuse, which is a big issue all over, right, but it's also families who have to get from point A to point B because of an abusive situation, perhaps at home. And right, it's just so much need to be filling. And like Fairfax, in rural Virginia, you have situations where I'm now in crisis. And if you've ever had a crisis in your life, you go through panic attack. What do I do? And you don't know what to do. So Jenny, Niche, and other volunteers, they step in and basically say, here's what you can do in the interim. And let's get, this is how you get signed up for that. So that's how it's through Jenny and Niche that Bob and I have gotten involved with this in wanting to do something right.
Yes, do something for good. I thank you for that. And Bob, let's round it up with you. Tell us a personal story, like something that really moved you, or what it's like to kind of serve somebody in a crisis situation. Do you I know your heart is so big. What has this experience been like for you, Bob? You want to unmute? I don't know if you're unmuted, my friend.
Very unusual for me to not be unmuted, but first of all, working with Jenny and Niche, it's hard not to be drawn in and committed to the cause. It's amazing. Now they invited us to be on the board of 51st, and we've gone through a lot of administrative stuff, but in doing that, you get a better feel for what's going on. So last week, was it last week, week before, I don't know, we went down to do a little work, primarily administrative. So kicking off the morning, we met one of the neighbors that we're assisting, that Niche is assisting, and she is in a recovery program, and she has to check a lot of boxes in order to once again get custody of her child. Mm-hmm. And she's done all of those things remarkably well and in advance of the deadlines. But she's still in a situation where she doesn't have housing because it's a vicious circle. She doesn't have housing because she doesn't have a job, because this, because that. She's now working, but I mean, the point is one negative thing feeds on the next, and it's very difficult to get out of that circle. So then we turned around and we were saying, okay, we're going to do some of this administrative stuff that we meant to do. And Jenny said, oh, by the way, I've got to go to this training. It's very critical for our effort. It's in Richmond. So can you be transportation for a woman and her son, because they've got to get over to a meeting for the son. And so, sure, we can do that, but there's a big issue with any of these people. They're so fragile. They've been hit with severe trauma. And so the question of trust, whether they would trust us to be transportation for them. So we had to meet up with them and earn their trust in order to do that. So before we went to Jack's appointment, to his appointment, we got a call that, oh, by the way, the court needs to see the mom in order to try to get a certain amount of evidence on what happened in the traumatic situation into court. And so we had 2 transportation issues on top of those things. This all happened in a day.
Yes.
It's not something you plan for. This was our trip to do administrative things. And then of course we met another person who is being helped. So that's a person who is potentially a threat to herself, a threat to the public, and needs help. So these things aren't planning, and it's so personally draining. And we need volunteers. We need people that can appreciate this and
it's like I said, you need this safety net. You need a definitely safety net in all these situations. Well, Bob, I'm so grateful that you guys were here today to talk about your work. I want to remind everybody to stay in the after chat if you have any more questions for this lovely group of people. Thank you, Jenny Kitchen. Thank you, Antonia Fasik, and thank you, Bob.
I just want to end it on a maybe a positive note.
Yes, go ahead.
Good news, something that we are able to. We're going to be helping that family that they provided transportation for. We've had someone in the community donate a van, and so we are going to be able to provide them with a means of transportation to get to all of these appointments, and it's going to change their lives in a way that you can only recognize if you've never been out without transportation in a rural community. But yeah, I will definitely be in the after chat and would love to. I know someone asked about why we're called the Pittsburgh Collective. Do you want me to answer that now or wait?
Well, you might as well. Let's do it.
Okay. So it's actually Nitch who came up with the name of the organization. She was thinking one day about bird murmurations. And so bird murmurations are those, sometimes you see pictures or videos of the clouds of birds that seem to be moving together in these really beautiful patterns. And this idea that it takes that 51%, that tipping point for everyone to start moving together. And so that's the piece that we're trying to be. We're trying to create that tipping point, fill those gaps, and make sure that our community starts moving together.
Oh my gosh, we should have started with the bird murmuration. Bird murmuration is awesome. I feel like that's what we are. We are sort of at that tipping point where we can all fly off together. Thank you, Jennifer Kitchen, Jenny Kitchen. Thank you to all the guests today, Laura Brill, and our sister district friends, Jarvis and Susan. Thank you so much for being here. I want to remind everybody that May 5th next week, we will not be here. We're being off solving the problems of Virginia and the world. No, we just need to take a break on Friday, and we're going to be working on the Women's Summit. So we hope that, again, you will consider helping us get the word out. And also submitting a panel or workshop if you're interested. That would be awesome. And I also want to say that we'll be back May 12th. We'll have a great show. It's going to be about Swing and Blue. We're going to have Susan Labandabar from Swing Blue Alliances Field Research Network. We'll have Swing Left here and Jody Rain from the Truth Brigade, because that's what we do. We bringing it to you, and it's all about working collectively together, our bird murmuration, to really work and do good together, and make sure that you stay inspired. You're going to show up, do something, say something. This weekend is your weekend to really kind of plug in and do some stuff and also relax. And thank you to our newest Patreons. And I hope that you stay to be on the other side to chat a little bit. And thank you to the wonderful team, Phil Norton, Robin Warner, Stara Calhoun, Heidi Dragneff, Dennis Orsinger, of course, Michelle McKinney, our chat liaison. A lot of chatting going on today, Michelle, Laura Martinez, and our content concierge, Julie Galdo, Alvina McCall, and Sally Renwald. We'll see you on the other side. Have a great weekend.